in the frozen silence of the boreal forest, where the wind moves like breath between black trees, something ancient listens. It waits in the deep cold, born of famine and frostbite, shaped by hunger that mocks the body and hollows the soul. This is not just a monster. It is a whisper passed from elder to child among the Algonquian-speaking peoples, a spirit of winter, of starvation, of devouring. They called it Wendigo. To speak its name was to summon dread, for the Wendigo is not a creature that hunts. It awakens in those who dare consume the flesh of their kin. It is a spirit of excess, of consumption without end. Its hunger has no bottom, its presence no mercy, and its story, though often distorted, still survives, gnawing at the edges of modern memory. This is the Wendigo, the hunger that never dies. I heard something last night. A voice, faint and cold. It said, "If 2,500 souls join us, the ancient seal will remain closed. But if not, you'll start hearing whispers. And then, the hunger comes. Subscribe before." Let's continue origins in Algonquian lore. Long before borders cut through the continent, before maps carved meaning into wilderness, the First Nations of North America told stories not for entertainment but for survival. Among the Algonquian-speaking peoples, including the Cree, Ojibwe, Innu, and Saulteaux, there was a name carried like a warning on winter winds: Wendigo or Wendigo. The Wendigo was no mere beast. It was a spiritual force, a distorted echo of humanity, born when someone abandoned their community's moral code in moments of desperation. Most feared was the act of cannibalism, particularly during times of famine. To eat human flesh was to invite a corruption so deep it hollowed the soul, transforming the person into something other, something monstrous. The Wendigo legend reminded its people that spiritual sickness could be more dangerous than physical hunger. It was a tale of moral decay, greed, and what happens when one consumes more than they need. Interestingly, the very linguistic roots of Wendigo reflect this theme. In various dialects, the word carries connotations of excess, selfishness, and insatiable appetite. And the Wendigo, once formed, never stops growing. Each act of consumption only makes it larger, hungrier, never full. In the ancient lore, it was said, the Wendigo is not simply a punishment, it is a consequence. A mirror held up to those who take more than they give, who feed while others starve. The tale has endured because its message still cuts to the bone. Appearance of the Wendigo. To see the Wendigo was to gaze upon the aftermath of hunger given form. Its shape varies across tribal stories, but always it is a thing of withered flesh and grotesque proportions. Emaciated, a walking corpse stretched too thin, as if the skin had forgotten how to hold the bones in. Some say it towers like a tree with limbs too long and joints that bend the wrong way. Others describe it as gaunt and skeletal, its ribs like claws beneath frostbitten skin. Its eyes glow, not with fire, but with a terrible cold, the kind that watches but never blinks. The Wendigo's lips are often chewed away, consumed by its own desperate hunger. Its voice is said to be a mournful cry carried through the pines, or a whisper inside the minds of the starving. But its most terrible feature is paradoxical. The more it eats, the larger it grows, and yet its hunger only deepens. A creature that devours but is never satisfied. Its body is the symbol of imbalance, of taking without giving, of survival twisted beyond nature into something profane. The Wendigo does not kill for survival. It feeds to suffer. The curse of cannibalism. The Wendigo is not born. It is become. Its curse begins with a single, desperate choice: the act of cannibalism. In times of famine, when snow-buried lodges held no food and families lay starving, a line stood between survival and horror. To cross it, to consume the flesh of kin or companion, was to open the soul to corruption. In many Algonquian traditions, this is how a Wendigo is made. The transformation is not always physical at first. It begins inside, a shifting of spirit, a sickness that feeds on guilt and desire. The more one eats, the more they crave. Soon, the person is no longer themselves. Their voice grows hollow. Their eyes begin to reflect only the need. And then, they change. This process gave rise to what scholars later termed Wendigo psychosis, a controversial diagnosis describing individuals in indigenous communities who believed they were turning into Wendigos, often after acts of cannibalism or even just intrusive thoughts of hunger and violence. Whether this condition is psychological, cultural, or spiritual remains a subject of debate, but for those who believe it is real, terrifyingly real. The Wendigo, then, is both a myth and a warning. It reminds us that even the most human can fall prey to monstrous urges when boundaries are broken. It is not just a tale about eating flesh. It is about losing everything human in the process. To feed on another is to feed the Wendigo within. Psychological and cultural interpretations. Beneath the bark and bone of the Wendigo legend lies a deeper layer, one rooted in the mind, in history, and in the wounds left by colonization. In the 17th to 20th centuries, European settlers and missionaries recorded accounts of a strange affliction among northern tribes, individuals who claimed they were turning into Wendigos. They spoke of an uncontrollable craving for human flesh, fear of harming loved ones, and a chilling sense of spiritual decay. Anthropologists would later name it Wendigo psychosis, a culture-bound syndrome recognized and feared within specific indigenous communities. While some modern scholars debate its legitimacy, others see it as a cultural expression of taboo, a cry for help in a world where spiritual and physical survival were entwined. But the Wendigo myth was also twisted by outsiders, colonial forces, misunderstanding or manipulating the story, used it as justification for violence, suppression of traditions, or pathologizing indigenous beliefs. Yet at its heart, the Wendigo remains a symbol of unchecked consumption. And in that, it becomes almost prophetic. As industrial expansion devoured forests and stripped the land, many indigenous voices began to see the settler society itself as Wendigo, always taking, never satisfied. The Wendigo myth, then, is not merely personal, it is collective. It speaks to the consequences of greed, of forgetting balance, of losing the sacred in pursuit of survival. It's a tale as much about colonizers as it is about cannibals, and its relevance has only grown. Survival, fear, and the cold north. To understand the Wendigo, one must understand the land. The myth was born where winter is long and ruthless, where snow silences the earth and food vanishes beneath ice. In these remote northern forests, survival was a fragile thread, and when that thread snapped, the Wendigo walked in. The creature embodies the terror of isolation, the sharp edge of desperation in a frozen world. When the firewood burns low and the meat runs out, fear creeps in, not just of dying, but of what one might become to live. The Wendigo legend served as a moral compass, guiding communities through famine with warnings wrapped in horror. It taught restraint. It warned against selfishness. It demanded respect for the line between life and monstrosity. Its haunting presence in winter lore is no accident. The Wendigo was a reminder that survival must not come at the cost of humanity. It is the fear of what we carry inside us, waiting for the cold to loosen its grip. And even today, when the world feels safer, warmer, more civilized, the Wendigo remains,
because hunger takes many forms. Modern shadows, the Wendigo today. The Wendigo has crossed into modern imagination, but not without scars. It has become a staple of horror films, video games, and television, often stripped of its cultural bones and remade as just another forest monster. Antlers, gore, growls, aesthetic over essence. But the true Wendigo is not just a creature to be hunted. It is a spiritual metaphor, a reflection of what happens when desire overrides balance, when we consume until there's nothing left but hunger itself. Some indigenous voices have pushed back against these distortions, calling for a return to the Wendigo's symbolic power, not as a jump scare, but as a cultural warning. In that return lies truth, because in a world of climate collapse, hoarded wealth, and systems that devour the many to feed the few, what is more relevant